During the Troubles, bands from the Republic have played without difficulty to mixed audiences throughout the North. Indeed, some bands recruited on both sides of the border have played in both Orange and parochial halls. But what happened to Miami after playing in Banbridge last night may have changed all that.
Throughout this video, we're going to be exploring one of the most darkest and most tragic moments in Irish music history, the story of the Miami Showband. In the 1960s and 70s, the Irish showband scene was the heartbeat of the country, a place where young people, north and south, Catholic and Protestant, could forget the troubles outside the dancehall walls and just live for the music. And at the very centre of that golden age stood the Miami Showband, a group whose energy, talent and charm made them national icons. But in the summer of 1975, as Ireland was torn apart by sectarian violence, the Miami Showband became the target of a brutal ambush that shocked the island to its core. What happened that night was more than just an attack on 5 musicians. It was an attack on hope itself. But just before we begin, if you'd like to support the channel and help keep stories like this alive, check out the shop. There's a whole range of Irish music-inspired designs made by myself and my father, from shirts and mugs to hats and stickers. And if this video reaches 100 likes, I'll put a 10% discount on everything for a full month. And as well as that, don't forget to subscribe. Hit the bell icon too, so you'll never miss another story. But without further ado, let's take a look at the rise, the tragedy, and the legacy of the Miami Showband. Let's journey back in time, to a time when Ireland was cleaved by violence, yet united by rhythm. The Irish showband phenomenon was the pulse of the country for 3 decades, and at the very heart stood the Miami Showband. They weren't just a group of musicians, they were a cultural phenomenon, a 7-member powerhouse known for their charisma and chart-topping hits. But for many, especially during the darkest years of the Troubles, the Miami Showband was something much more profound. A momentary escape, a symbol of unity in a bitterly divided land. Their extraordinary popularity, which transcended religious boundaries, ultimately led to them being made a target in one of the most callous atrocities of the conflict. The Irish Showband defined popular entertainment from the 1950s to the 1980s, mixing genres like rock and roll, country and western, Dixieland jazz and folk. And at its peak in the mid-1960s, hundreds of bands traversed the island nightly, employing thousands of musicians and staff, actively rocking Irish society from its post-war depression. The Miami Showband formed in Dublin in 1962, and they quickly rose to the top. Initially called the Downbeats Quartet, the band was renamed the Miami Showband, inspired by the Palm Beach Ballroom, where they had their first gig. Early fronted by the magnetic Dickie Rock, who even represented Ireland in the Eurovision Song Contest in 1966, the band produced 7 #1 singles on the Irish charts. By 1975, the Miami Showband had cultivated a large and devoted following on both sides of the border, attracting what one journalist described as Beatle-like devotion. Their sound was contemporary and transatlantic, deliberately avoiding any reference to the escalating conflict. The band members simply wanted to entertain their audience and were prepared to travel anywhere in Ireland to perform. This determination to operate normally in an abnormal time was captured by saxophonist Des Lee, who later recalled, "We entertained everybody. It didn't matter what colour, what creed, or where we were playing, whether it was north or south. We looked upon it as giving 2 hours of fun to people to get away from the troubles." At the time of the tragedy, the members travelling included Fran O'Toole, who was the lead vocalist, noted for his good looks and powerful voice, Tony Geraghty, who's the guitarist, Brian McCoy, the trumpeter, and Stephen Travers, who's the bassist, and Des Lee as the saxophonist. Trumpeter Brian McCoy, significantly, was a Protestant from Northern Ireland, whose family had close ties to security forces and the Orange Order. This cultural bridge that they embodied, Catholic and Protestant musicians playing for integrated audiences, was a vibrant, shining contrast to the sectarian hostility spreading across the island. As the Miami Showband travelled, performing night after night, the political landscape of Northern Ireland was darkening considerably. The year 1975 fell squarely within the Troubles, an ethno-nationalist conflict tearing the region apart. While the Provisional IRA had declared a tentative ceasefire in late 1974, loyalist paramilitary groups viewed this with deep suspicion, believing the British government might abandon them and force a united Ireland. This fear fueled an escalation in sectarian violence, making 1975 one of the bloodiest years on conflict. The primary perpetrators of the impending attack, the Ulster Volunteer Force, were deeply entrenched in this sectarian conflict. Though they claimed their goal was to combat Irish Republicans, The vast majority of their victims were Irish Catholic civilians, often killed at random. The specific unit involved, the UVF Mid-Ulster Brigade, was notorious, forming part of the infamous Clunan Gang, a secret alliance of loyalist militants that shockingly included serving members of the Royal Ulster Constabulary police officers and soldiers from the Ulster Defence Regiment. This collusion between British state forces and loyalist paramilitaries was a grim reality of the conflict. The UVF was commanded by one of the most prolific sectarian killers in Northern Ireland history, Robin the Jackal Jackson. Jackson had allegedly assumed command just days before, after reportedly murdering the former leader Billy Hanna. The Loyalists saw the Miami Showband, regardless of its non-political stance and mixed faith membership, as a symbolic target for the nationalist community that revered them. The UVF planned an operation of cunning deception. They intended to bomb the Catholic South secretly, planting the blame on the victims themselves, and therefore forcing the Irish government to tighten border security against the IRA. This was the treacherous reality that awaited the unwary musicians as they drove home from their latest gig. The night was supposed to end with a successful gig and then the long drive home. Instead, it culminated in senseless slaughter, leaving 2 survivors to carry the trauma of what they witnessed. On the late night of July 30th, 1975, the Miami Showband finished their performance at the Castle Ballroom in Banbridge, County Down. Drummer Ray Miller was already gone, heading to Antrim to see his parents, a choice that saved his life. The 5 remaining musicians piled into their Volkswagen Type 2 minibus for the journey south towards Dublin. Around 2:30 a.m. on July 31st, as they drove 7 miles north of Newry on the main A1 road near Buskill, their vehicle was flagged down. Ahead, armed men stood in the darkness, waving a red torch in a circular motion, dressed in what appeared to be British Army uniforms. During the Troubles, military checkpoints were normal, so when driver Brian McCoy informed the others, he dutifully pulled over the minibus into the lay-by. As McCoy rolled down his window, one gunman spoke with a Northern Irish accent. "Good night, fellas. How are things? Can you step out of the van for a few minutes and we'll do a check?" The unsuspecting band members obeyed, lining up facing the ditch behind the minibus with their hands locked atop their heads. The atmosphere initially felt deceptively casual. The gunmen, about 10 strong, joked with the musicians, asking which one was the famous Dickie Rock. Brian McCoy, the Protestant trumpeter, even leaned over to bassist Stephen Travers and reassured him, "Don't worry, Stephen, this is British Army." But the moment of deadly reality arrived with a mysterious, distinct figure, an individual in a noticeably different uniform and beret, speaking with an educated English accent, who took charge and ordered an immediate change in procedure. Unseen by the band, 2 of the UVF gunmen, later identified as Harris Boyle and Wesley Somerville, both members of the UDR and the UVF, were placing a 10-pound time bomb concealed inside a briefcase beneath the driver's seat. The UVF planned for the bomb to detonate once the band reached Newry or the Republic, allowing the Loyalists to falsely claim the band were Irish Republican Army smugglers. But fate intervened. Before the device could be properly armed or sealed, the bomb detonated prematurely. The blast was immediate and catastrophic, tearing the minibus in half and killing Boyle and Somerville instantly. The only identifiable remains of one bomber found 100 yards away was a severed arm bearing a UVF Portadown tattoo. Saxophonist Des Lee was hurled into a ditch by the force of the explosion, while the surviving gunman descended into pandemonium, screaming obscenities. The order was given to shoot the remaining witnesses. The air was ripped by automatic gunfire as 3 musicians were mercilessly cut down. Brian McCoy, the man who had just reassured his bandmates, was the first to fall, struck by 9 rounds from a 9mm Luger pistol. Lead singer Fran O'Toole attempted to flee but was chased into the field and machine-gunned 22 times, mostly in the face as he lay prone. Both O'Toole and guitarist Tony Geraghty, who also pleaded for his life before being shot multiple times, were executed as they lay wounded. Stephen, though seriously wounded by a dum-dum bullet, survived by feigning death next to McCoy's body. Des Lee, lying hidden in the thick undergrowth, also remained silent and undetected until the gunmen, believing all others dead, departed. One of them kicking McCoy's body and confirming, "Come on, those bastards are dead. I got them with dum-dums." The sun rose over Buskill to reveal a scene of absolute devastation. The smouldering remains of a minibus, debris, and the bodies of 3 young musicians. The Miami Showband Massacre instantly shocked the whole of Ireland and dealt a profound blow to the nation's sense of cultural togetherness. This wasn't merely a political attack, it was an assault on a symbol of cross-community hope, an incident that, as the Irish Times noted, encapsulated all the madness of time. The immediate aftermath was characterised by official outrage and transparent UVF lies. Within hours, the UVF brigade staff issued a statement, a grotesque distortion of the truth, claiming the band were members of a terrorist organisation transferring weapons, and that the 2 deceased bombers were heroes killed while trying to disarm a device, framing the musicians' murders as justifiable homicide. The UVF later gave paramilitary funerals to Boyle and Somerville, led by a Free Presbyterian minister. However, the reality of the atrocity fueled retaliation, including the provincial IRA Bayardo Bar attack in Belfast days later. The funeral processions for O'Toole, McCoy and Geraghty received televised coverage, with Ireland mourning alongside the bereaved families. For musicians in Ireland, the attack was crippling. The live music scene, which thrived on bringing young Catholics and Protestants together, was dealt a severe blow. The cross-border band touring dropped significantly, accelerating the general decline of the showband era as many groups disbanded or scaled down, suddenly terrified of travelling the open roads. In the years that followed, the painful truth of collusion slowly emerged. 2 serving UDR soldiers, Thomas Crozier and James McDowell, and 1 former UDR soldier, John James Somerville, were convicted, receiving lengthy sentences. Yet the survivors believed the real organisers were never prosecuted. Decades later, the Historical Inquiries team confirmed in 2011 that UVF leader Robin Jackson was linked to the attack, identified by his fingerprints found on a silencer made for the Luger pistol used to kill Brian McCoy. Disturbingly, the HET report also identified Jackson as an RUC Special Branch agent and raised disturbing questions about collusive and corrupt behaviour, noting that Jackson had claimed a senior RUC officer advised him to lie low after the shootings. The lasting mark of the Miami Showband killings is etched in memorials, not only in the collective memory of a sectarian madness, but physically too. In 2007, a monument titled Let's Dance was unveiled in Dublin, a tribute to the deceased members. Survivor Stephen Travers, despite being seriously wounded, later met secretly with a UVF intermediary who offered an apology, saying the gunman had panicked, an explanation Travers accepted even as he continued searching for the full truth. As the survivors and their families continued their painful pursuit of justice, the words of Taoiseach Bertie Ahern during the monument's unveiling resonate. Their popularity crossed all boundaries and all traditions. They simply wanted to entertain everyone. At a dark time, they were a shining light for so many. The final gig of the reformed Miami Showband took place in 2015 in Banbridge, close to the scene of the atrocity, an emotional closure reflecting the deep wounds that time can never truly heal. So that's it for the video. The story of the Miami Showband, a band that represented unity, joy and resilience in one of the most divided periods in Irish history. Their music brought people together when everything was pulling them apart, and even after that horrific night in 1975, their legacy continues to stand as a symbol of peace through music. If you found this story moving, please give the video a like, subscribe and share it as well. It really helps the channel grow and keep these important stories from fading away. And remember as well to check out the shop for Irish music themed designs, all created by myself and my dad. If you'd like to see something new in there, leave a comment as well. I'd love to make it happen for you. Also as well is that if you're a musician inspired by Ireland or part of the Irish music tradition yourself, reach out to me. My email's on the channel page. This channel was built to tell the stories of Ireland's music and musicians, past and present, and I'd love to help share yours too. Before we wrap up, I want to give a huge shout out to our channel members. Your names are up on screen right now. You're absolute legends, you all know that, and your support keeps this channel going. Thanks a million for all your support. If you'd like to join them, just click on that join button or check the links below in the description. So that's it from me. Thanks a million for watching again. Hope you're all having a great day. Slán go fóill. Cheers.